Let's sum up. This year we explored the failure of democracy, while the social scientists brought our world to the brink of chaos.
Righty ho then, konbanwa minasan. Kore wa anata no personal boy. Offy D here with the result to the summer 2018 NLP vote. Almost forgot what it was. The result to something. It's early Friday morning as I record this, so this is the results as of that time. So if you voted between then and now, your vote was wasted. I did put a note on the video saying not to vote, but people don't read the description, so it's fine. Now, let's take a look at what we've actually got. If you direct your eyes to the screen, you'll see the result as I see it now. Top contenders being Crusader Kings 2 / EU4, Mountain Blade, Attila, etc, etc. So, these are the options from which we must choose. Maybe more than one NLP series at once, as I'll get into. However, I'm now going to complicate matters by introducing a secret second vote. This other vote is the same vote again, actually. It's just the same vote, but only patrons. So what I wanted to do for this vote is to put some sort of special priority on the opinions of patrons in order to value them a bit more, since they are so essential to the operation of the channel, like, at all. I thought, let's give patrons an extra bit of oomph in their vote, so they effectively got 2 votes, and the patron-only results will be used in such a way as I will now demonstrate. So here are the patron-only results, and you may note there isn't that much agreement between the public and patron-only setup, and we're now going to analyse that and use my benevolent dictatorship powers to decide what we should make of this combination of vote results. So now, please direct your eyes to this. I have created a spreadsheet which simply states now the number of votes and the list for both our public and patron vote. And as I've stated here, what I thought we'll do, the way we'll separate power in this democracy, is we'll have the public vote decide what options will remain in the pool, and the patron vote will decide the priority or the value I'll place on the remaining options. So, to see what that means, let's do things in practice. The first rule I thought of is that we'll take the public vote, and we'll say everything in the bottom half of the public vote will be eliminated from the running right away, which leaves us with about 2/3 of the total votes representing what's left, so it's still got a super majority, the remaining pool. So let me just do that to our table here. So here we are. I've removed the same things from the patron vote as well. So anything eliminated by the public can't be forced through by the patrons. There's probably a very deep philosophical legalistic argument for how this should work. But it's loosely based on the public vote being more important, because I love democracy. To help analyse what we've got left, I've decided to arbitrarily give some points to these options. So all I've done is say the first option gets 5, the second option gets 4, the next one gets 3, 2, and 1, and combine the 2 point scores from the 2 tables I've ended up with to see which games are at the top. And we immediately see that Empire Total War with America, as you might guess, because it's at the bottom of both pools, probably isn't going to be the option. So you know what? I'm just going to delete it. Let's just take that out right now to simplify matters. We're down to 4 from the original 10, so this is going well. But how far down do I need to shave it? What I think I might be going for here is a total of 3 options picked out from the list for next NLP. You might think it'd be only 2 because I only do 2 series at once. But I'm starting to think, well, I'll explain myself in a second. I think I'm just going to delete these points now, because that point system is a bit arbitrary. It doesn't take into account how much each one beat the previous one by, so I don't want to put too much stock in actually directly ordering it by points. Let's just look at this list of 4 games. Now, I do want to leave these 2 in the vote, because they're the first and second option on the public vote, which I am giving priority. And as part of my sort of executive powers, things that I'm personally using to decide what I would like to do include the priority of it not being a total war game, because I do think it is time to do something else at this point. So the number one option on the public vote was CK2/EU4, and from the comments, I'm going to narrow that down to just CK2, because everyone who talked about that option, or most of the people who talked about that option, specifically were looking for CK2 rather than EU4, so we can narrow that one down to something a bit more specific. I think Ancient Empires will have to be the one that stays, thinking about it more. Because one thing that made me realise is that not only is it winning in both of the votes that I mentioned, but in the Patron vote in particular, if we go back to the graph version where you can see it more, it actually won quite clearly versus Rome 2. It has a decent majority. So there definitely seems to be better support for Ancient Empires even right now than the Rome 2 game. And the other thing to remember is that Rome 2, Marca Manos, that's the faction where everybody says, "For the tribe!" It would just be that over and over again. And indeed, it is a storyline that is very much about what a tribe is and how far exactly they should go for the tribe, which should have been Rome 2's tag phrase anyway. What I'll do is we'll say that this is our winner's pool. Now, what am I going to do with this exactly? We still need to decide. And the thing that I mentioned, the priority to not have the next thing be total war, means that in fact the winner's pool looks like that. This is what we're looking at for like what I'll start working on like in 2 days. And this is what we're looking at for what I'll start working on when Honourable Gentleman is done. And that is going into its end game. I don't know obviously exactly how long it's going to take, but this is something that will be started work on, I don't know, maybe in a month or two? Not quite sure. So we'll set that aside for now. As for our winner right now, we are still looking at two things, the astute among you might have noted, whereas traditionally one would pick one winner. But in this case, I'm going to make a weird double exception using my executive judgment and overruling powers to do both of them at the same time, and I'll explain why that is. It's because, long and short of it is, I don't think that a CK2 series made by me would actually be very good. But I want to prove that. I want to test it out by trying it on a small scale while preparing to make this second option, the Mountain Blade option. So to start this will take a while to sort of work out what this is going to be and get the ball rolling. And what I'm thinking is that while I'm doing that, I'll split my time half and half to preparing that and making something quite small with CK2 in order to prove to you my belief that whatever you think I would make in CK2 isn't what you were thinking of. And that I'm so unable to play the game that it wouldn't be particularly interesting to see a campaign that was controlled by me. Other factors to take into account there are, one, my personal distaste for it. I don't find playing CK2 to be fun in any particular way, so this is another way for me to potentially get it off the list by playing it a bit, getting people to see, oh, that's what he was thinking of making, never mind. And then that will be the end of that. Another thing that makes me apprehensive about CK2 is that I don't have any of the DLCs, not even one. And I think people that are actually into CK2 would only be disappointed by what that will create. And you could say, well, you can get the DLC. Well, I could, but I don't want to, because I don't especially like CK2. I don't want to buy them because I wouldn't find them enjoyable, most likely, and it's extremely expensive to get them as well. They cost loads, the full set. There's like 20 of them, and they're all changing various things in the game. Anyway, and some people were kindly offering to buy me things, so someone might just say, well, I'll give you the DLC so you have them. I feel strangely bad about that, in that I don't want to get a gift from someone that I really just didn't want. It's like, here's something, and now because someone's given it to me, I have to play it even though I didn't want to. So I don't know, it's just a strange obligation thing. I've been trying to think all week about why I refuse to accept gifts from people. I'm not quite sure. It's probably some psychological flaw. I don't want you to give me all the DLC to force the CK2 series to be better, because I just straight up don't think it will be worth it. However, my mind is open to be proven wrong, which is why I'm still going to go ahead with it. I'm not going to use my executive powers to just strike it off the list altogether, which I probably could do, and I certainly wanted to do initially before I thought, no, let's give it a try. Anyway, blah blah blah. Another thing that was holding me back is that I know almost nothing actually about the time period that CK2 is set in, or the base game, the early Middle Ages. I was like looking over the characters and thinking, I don't know who any of these people are. The only one I've heard of is William the Conqueror, and that led me to come up with what I thought I would do for this mini-series, which I suppose I'll explain here while you're all here. What I thought I'd do is find a character who's really young at the beginning, the start date of the game, I should say, and just follow their life. So play the game trying to play that one character up to the point when that character dies, and then I'll be writing just a narrative based on what happened. And as mentioned in the vote video itself, it would be in the fashion of the Rise of Arakamani series I did, that short thing. It was only 3 episodes, they were like 10 minutes or so long, and it just like altogether constituted a short story. I don't know how long it was, like 8,000 word short story about the life, not in the life of Arakamani, about one episode in Arakamani's life as he rose from being some guy to being a pharaoh. And it would be something like that, only the footage would be even less related to what I'm talking about, because in CK2, events that are significant in the story may last only about 3 seconds in the game, in that events in the game are just pop-ups. You don't do anything per se, it just says you're married. Yeah, and that, while that may be a significant event in the character's life, there's no footage to go along with it or anything, so it's not going to be any sort of gameplay commentary, or it's going to be very loosely based on what happened in a campaign that I filmed. So it may come down to basically just being historical fan fiction about my chosen character, who, by the way, was going to be the son of William the Conqueror, in a nod to the only person whose name I recognise while looking around. I thought I won't play as William the Conqueror because I want to do the full lifespan thing that I mentioned, but his direct heir, his son, is something like 12 at the start of the campaign, and he's the Count of Maine, one of the French counties, French places. He's a count of something, and yeah, we'll just play as him because he stands to inherit England if his father is successful, so there's a potential for something dramatic happening there, and maybe he won't since the game's somewhat random. We'll just see what happens effectively. So what I'll do is use half of the time freed up by not making Barbarian Masters to make that, and the other half I'll use to prepare this series, which will start coming out a bit later because of this. So this will come out first, no doubt, but the CK2 will probably be quite short and be a sort of possibly painless ripping of the bandage of saying, there you go, there's your goddamn CK2 content. Wasn't it awful? Now let's move on to something that Devon likes playing, like Mount and Blade. That's literally what we're doing here. And hopefully, with any luck, if there is some value in the CK2 option winning the vote, it will turn out to actually be quite interesting and good, and we'll end up getting the best of both worlds. That's the ideal, optimistic plan here. So as for the Mount and Blade Bella Imperii thing, I still haven't solidified in my mind what that will actually be, but that will be the bigger replacement for Barbarian Masters that will actually run for, like more than 4 or 5 episodes. And yeah, just need to work out what the objective of the campaign will be, come up with a few excuses for the campaign to go to different parts of the world, since I would like to visit the various parts of the mod and just check it out, because I haven't done that myself. So we need to find a way to go down into the east and check out the deserty places, and find a way to go to Rome itself, and Germania, and like Northern Africa, a few different places that we can visit. So an excuse for a quest must be drummed up. But obviously that can be done in some way, we'll just invent one. So that will be the sort of thing I'll be trying to come up with while also making CK2 and doing things like, gathering music, thumbnail, maybe practicing the start of the campaign to see if I can make it open in an interesting way, things like that. So I suppose that's it for the votes. This is the winners. CK2 is going to be the next thing you'll see. Maybe or maybe not, you won't like that. And then we'll also be seeing Mount and Blade with the Bella Imperii mod, which has just been updated, by the way. I think it was updated a couple of weeks ago. I need to get the newest version. And then we'll be seeing Ancient Empires after Honourable Gentlemen, which might not be very long in the future. We might be looking at just a few more episodes, not quite sure. So that's that. That's the result of the vote. Thank you to everyone for voting, both in the regular and Patron votes. Perhaps as a runner-up prize for Rome 2 Marcomanos, I could do that as an abridged campaign after the Xenonauts game that I'm playing through right now. Shout in the comments if you think that would be a worthy thing to do. And I don't know, it's almost a shame because that was the option. That and this one and Warhammer were the ones I'd actually thought about a story for and sort of like jotted a vague outline for how I think it would go. But then again, it wasn't a very interesting story, so I don't mind throwing it away either. So if you were interested specifically in seeing that campaign, because it's slightly different by Total War standards, in that you're the underdog fighting the overdog from the very beginning, so it's not like you have time to become big before you fight the big powers, then say something in the comments, and what I could do is make that the next abridged campaign, as I said. Let me give an honourable mention to XCOM, a game that lots of people in the comments and just around the internet have been shouting at me about. It was actually on the last vote and didn't do very well, which is the only reason it wasn't on this vote. But yes, I agree with anyone who was thinking that XCOM would be a cool idea. Yes, it would be. It's near the top of my personal list of things, like the list of things I would do if nobody was watching and there was no stakeholders in the channel, or it didn't matter what I was doing. Then yes, I think I probably would make an XCOM series. I'd probably make a Stalker series as well, which was destroyed in this vote. You can destroy my dreams all you like, audience. I'll keep forcing them upon you. It'll be back one day. So yes, honourable mention to XCOM. I think I'll probably put it on the next vote again to see how it's doing at whatever time that is. Honourable mention as well to Frank's Penance, which is a very old series I made years ago that a few people came back saying, when's that going to come back? When's it going to be finished? When's the remaster? And yeah, I can't even remember why I stopped making it. I stopped about 2/3 of the way through it, and I can't remember why. I have this vague feeling it was technical. But anyway, I'd written this huge, basically a book to go along with it. But I realised I could never fit that story into the narrative Let's Play that I was making, and I think that discouraged me in some way, and there was some reason, I don't know. So, any fans of Far Cry 2, make yourself known for a reboot of Frank's Penance one day. I think it would be interesting anyway, although I think I have also lost the story, so I'd have to remake it. One last extra bit of news that I'm throwing in here for anyone who's still hanging around is news on my game development project, which has been mentioned on and off over the years, but it's actually been ongoing the entire time. Actually, let me open up the game so I can show it to you while I say this. As a quick catch-up, for anyone who hasn't been following, over the last 5 years, I started trying to develop my own Total War game in order to learn programming, basically. Got to some point with it, realised I had programmed it so poorly I would have to start again to continue. But then I started again making an easier-to-make style of game based on Fire Emblem. But it's Fire Emblem combined with Mount and Blade, so what we're looking at here is a world map. So I've got this big world that you go around in as a single party, like in Mount and Blade, and it's kind of a strategic thing where there are these red and green factions that are at war, and at the beginning of the game, in the basic game settings at least, you need to support the green faction against the red faction in this big made-up world with all sorts of shizzle going on all over the place. And it has a little battle system, so where's Mill? This is our party with our weird default characters, and we go and fight with other parties over locations. There's a lot more to it than that, I suppose, but this is the fundamental thing that you do. And it's a game. It's not finished. It has a Warhammer tier ending where the game just ends and nothing happens at the end. but it can be played, and if you're familiar with turn-based tactics games, you can sort of see what I'm doing here. You move around. I won't explain all the options here, that's all for a future video, but you fight with enemies. I've got all the debug mode enabled so we can just cheat to speed things up. And the enemy fights with me, and it has this sort of thing like in Fire Emblem where you have damage, chance to hit, number of hits, you get experience for doing things, and there is an AI in it that will attempt to fight against you. As you can see there, you can capture bases and blah 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 blah. So we've got a game. I am actually still making a game for anyone who wondered. I won't really explain it anymore here. I think I will in the future. I was going to make a video explaining this game a long time ago, but I keep breaking things. I keep thinking, oh, actually, it really needs this additional feature, and then because I'm a crazy cowboy coder, when I try and implement that feature, it breaks something else, and it's just this endless cycle of things, and me constantly going, oh, to complement this feature that I've added, I'll need another feature, otherwise it would be too annoying. I'm applying some high quality backseat game design on myself, so hopefully it will end up being really good because of me constantly criticizing the annoying parts about my own game. And I feel like constantly criticizing other games has given me a good insight to saying, this is the sort of thing that's annoying, like trying to cut out busy work, trying to make sure that it's obvious you're doing something good, if you are doing something good. Let's not go into a massive game design lecture, but this game exists. It exists, and it's great. It's great. You'll get to play it one day, probably. I'll just keep trying to finish it and getting through placeholder things, getting the art finished. More sound effects, maybe. All the sound effects are just me going into the microphone, which I think is pretty good, but we might replace them at some point. Anyway, thank you for watching the vote results and the news video, which I've tacked on to the end. And I'll see you in the future for something, playing as the kid of William the Conqueror in Crusader Kings 2 for a little bit, and then some other thing, playing as some kind of freed Roman slave on a quest for vengeance all across the Roman Empire, or something to be decided, and then in the far future something in Ancient Empires, which I won't pin down what that's going to be right now, since the options may change by the time I actually come to do it, but it will probably be one of the smaller factions like Pergamon or Armenia, as mentioned last week. Last week? Words! That's my cue to leave. Thanks for watching.